Building a workflow within Ant, let's first define what a workflow is, and then we'll actually go in and build one to have a better understanding. A workflow is, in a sense, an automatic response to a triggered event. Now that might sound confusing, but the point I'm trying to make is that we can create a workflow that will have an automatic reaction to something that happens. So for instance, let's say we put a new customer into Ant. Well, that is a triggered event, putting the new customer in Ant, and the automatic response to that can be sending that customer a welcome email. Or let's say we have a customer that has moved out of the States. Well, the triggered event can be changing the state name, and the automatic response to that event can be changing the status of that customer from active to inactive. So a workflow is going to automatically do something upon a certain condition. Let's go ahead and build one now so we can have a better understanding of this. So right now I'm in the Customers tab, in Settings, and over here in Settings in the Workflow tab. And right down here you're going to see a list of all the workflows that you've created. So currently right now I only have one that's created. To create a new workflow, we're going to click on this button here, and then we can decide whether we want to create a workflow for a customer, a lead, or an opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and select Customer. And this window appears that allows us to build our workflow. The first thing I'm going to do is give my workflow a name. So I'm going to call this Cold Prospect Email Campaign. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a workflow that allows me to send 3 emails automatically on the first day, day 3, and day 7 to a customer that I decide to put into the group called Cold Prospect. And we can write a description of that down here. I'm just going to keep my description short. The next thing we want to do to this workflow is add a condition. So I'm going to click on this Add Condition button, and we can add as many conditions as we want, and we can always choose OR with or AND with. So AND with, of course, means both conditions must be met. OR with would mean either condition needs to be met. Mine is going to have one simple condition, and your first condition always wants to begin with AND with. And so we want to go to Groups, and when I select Groups, these conditions will change depending on what your field is that you pick here. So if I pick a date selected field, these are going to be more date conditioned criterias. But I want AND with groups equal to, and since I chose the field groups, this knows to grab all the groups that I've pre-created in AND. Let me go ahead and select Prospect Cold. And then let's add our actions. So the actions I can choose from are send an email, create a task, or update a field. I'm going to select send email, but just to give you an idea of the other ones, if I selected create a task, then upon a certain time stamped of it, the condition being met up here, a task would appear on my home page. Or if I selected updated field, this would be where we had spoken about earlier. If a customer moved from one state to another and we wanted to change the status from active to inactive, we would do that through the update field. Let's go ahead and select send email, and this new window pops up, and we're going to name each action. So I'm going to name this email 1. I'm going to send this out immediately when we move the customer to Cold Prospect Group, and this email is going to come from, you can put whatever email address you want there. Where are we going to send this email to? We can send it to their home, work, other, spouse, their default email, or some customized email that we want to put here. I'm going to go ahead and select default email. We have the same options to CC, the same options to BCC, which I'm not going to choose either of those. And then down here at the bottom, we have the opportunity to either create our email here, or we can select a template email. I've created template email, so I'm going to select the template email button. And down here I'm going to select the email. Now you can learn how to create email templates within another tutorial. But the email templates that I created are right here, prospect 1, 2, and 3. Let me click the email template prospect 1 and click save. So immediately when I put a customer into cold prospects as a group, this first email is going to automatically get sent to them, and it's a pre-created email that I created. Well, action 2, I'm going to send another email, call it email 2. I'm going to send this out 3 days after I put that customer into cold prospects. Same thing, I'm going to select the default email, and the template I'm going to select is that prospect template 2 that I created. As you can see, it's put it here. It knows what template to grab. I'm going to click save. I'm going to add my final email. We're going to send this out 7 days after to their default email address. And I'm going to select that third email template that I had created and save. So again, let's read this. The name of the workflow is Cold Prospect Email Campaign. I've given it a brief description here. And every time the group of a customer is changed to prospect cold, it's going to send out this first email that I've created immediately. Then 3 days afterwards, it's going to send out a second email. And then 7 days afterwards, it's going to automatically send out that third email. Now we can save this right now, but this workflow is actually not activated. What we need to do to activate this email is we need to go over to this options and check mark that activate publish workflow. So now if I save this workflow, this will be activated, and every customer that I put into the cold prospect group will start receiving these emails. Some other options we have are when to start this workflow. We can start it when the object is created. So this can be if you're creating a new customer, you might have a workflow that sends them that automatic welcome email. You would do that when the object is created. For this workflow example, we're going to choose though when object is updated or changed. So this assumes the customer is already created, and then I'm going to add that group, cold prospect. And when I add that group, that's when the object is updated or changed. It will start this workflow process. And I can actually choose both. So if I created them and put them in the cold prospect right away, it would know to start this workflow in either instance. And some final options here are only allow one instance at a time. So I'm going to check box that. So what that's going to do is, let's say we put this customer into cold prospects, the workflow launched. We took them out of that group, and then we put them back in that group 5 days later. Well, we've already launched this workflow once. We're not going to relaunch it again. So you'll want to check that if it makes sense to only have this workflow work once upon a selected condition. All this looks good. I'm going to click Save and Close. And now my new workflow is listed here, and the active is set to yes, which means it is working. And that's a quick example of how to use workflow within Ant and build them. As you can imagine, you have many options available to you within a workflow, and your workflows that you create can be pretty much endless. Arius.